Firstly, I wanted to ask you in regards to 20 Pounds to Happiness, what initially drew you to that project?
Well, I read a lot of scripts, and throughout my career, there has not been a script like this where I could not put it down and I said, we have to make this movie. So first and foremost, it was honestly the writing. It was so funny. It was so heartfelt. It was something very meta because it was something I was kind of going through. Still kind of going through the same situation, but I could just relate to the lead character so much. All the characters were great, but the lead character, I was like, wow, I've never seen a character like this. So that was one thing that just popped up, and I was like, wow, we have to make this. Now, I wasn't sure, at what capacity I was going to be involved because, I produce, I direct, I act, I write, and I've been collaborating with Josefina Lopez, the writer, for a long time. So she's the one that suggested, well, why don't you star in it? And I said, yeah, that would be great. Okay. And why don't you direct it? And I was like, what? Okay, sure. Because she knows I love challenges. I'm someone, because I've been in the business for a long time. Things that are easy for me, I'm like, yeah, I could do it, but what for? I've been there, done that. So I really thought, what a great challenge to actually, do a feature film that you get to star in and direct and produce. And we got it done with a lot of hard work.
And for those who don't know, Josefina Lopez did Real Women Have Curves, won Sundance, is this iconic indie film writer. So many people look up to her. If you know Real Women Have Curves, that is Josefina. And considering you were behind the camera and in front of the camera, what challenges did that bring?
Oh, a lot of challenges. Thank God for the monitor. It's so hard to. It's like right now. It's like I'm looking at you. I'm not looking to see what I look like. So imagine doing that while you're directing, and then you're like, wait, but what do I look like? You really have to trust your DP. You have to do playback. So the challenges were the time. You were very limited to the time because it's an independent feature, and sometimes if I knew I had it, and that's the thing about a director that I've shadowed a lot of wonderful directors, Oscar award nominated directors, all kinds of directors, and the one thing they always say is like, know what you want, know how to get it, and know when you have it. Like, move on. So I was very confident in that, which I think surprised a couple. I had an instance where an actor was like, "Can I get another take?" And I was like, "Why? We got it. It was brilliant. Like we got it in two takes," which is honestly what every actor should aspire to, because if you've been on a real primetime network show, you only get two takes. If you're lucky, you might get a third, but that's it. So even in my auditions now, I'm like, I will tape for two takes. If I can't do it in two, I'm like, I should not be doing this gig. I'm not ready. Let me prepare a little more before I try to self tape, before I try to audition, because really time is of the essence. You were on set, that the time flies, especially if you're doing an exterior and the sun is setting. I mean, I can't wait for someone to rehearse on set and get their lines. I need them to just come in, okay, ready, let's go, let's do it. So that was the challenge, was really the time, and just trusting that I got what I needed from my own performance, while at the same time, keeping my eye on everybody else's performance, and just making sure that the story was gonna, come to life in the same tone. That's one thing that a lot of people don't talk about, aesthetic wise. I love tone. Are we in the same script? Are we in the same story? Are we in the same, type of comedy? Because there's all kinds of comedy, right? There's big slapstick comedy, there's pratfalls, then there's subtle comedy, there's dry comedy, there's all kinds of genres, subgenres. So that's the one thing that was really challenging, was just to make sure that we are still all on the same exact page, which I'm spearheading, but I can't see what I look like unless I want to go do a playback, which takes time.
Yeah, I feel like your set, I'm so grateful that I got to work with you. But one of my favorite things that working with you was that we moved so fast and you knew exactly what you wanted. I didn't have to guess. It was like, this is what I want and let's do it. And when you were auditioning actors, obviously, so Yelena, she did self tapes. And what were you looking for in the self tapes?
Oh, that's a great question. So we actually had 13,000 actors audition. We didn't have that many roles. Thank God for a casting director. Julian Ortega literally like looked through every single one, because I was like, wow, how am I going to get through 13,000 tapes, what I was looking for, by the time they got filtered down and they came down to me, first and foremost, I look at the first picture. Does it pop out? Does it look like the character that I'm looking for? Is there something interesting? Like right now, I'm looking at you. the way you're set up right now with the crown, with the pink, like if that was the picture that you sent me for the character that you are playing, that you played in the movie, I would be like, I have to watch this tape. Honestly, that was the first thing. One, the colors popped. And I'm being very specific because that's really my thought process, you know, especially as a director. Like, what am I looking for? Like, I know that you understand character, you understand the tone. You're like, is this Legally Blonde? I'm like, yes, it is. Legally Brown, maybe in my movie. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, I was like looking at all those details. So it's really important, you know, the wardrobe that you choose. You know, the background looks, you know, nice. But as far as like what I was looking for in the characters in the self tapes was tone. Do you understand the material? And that's a really hard thing for me as an actor as well. When I read stuff and you don't really get direction sometimes, and I'm like, is this the right tone? Right? If there's a show that I'm auditioning for, I will watch the television show and go, okay, I got the tone. I understand the tone, right? I understand the color scheme of the wardrobe because if it's, you know, let's say it's a primetime network drama, which is in my wheelhouse, the 1 hour dramas, you know, that show is like they're wearing fall colors because it's in New York and it's brown. I'm not gonna go dress up, you know, like what you're wearing right now, very Disney, very Nickelodeon, very pop. You know what I mean? So that makes a difference, believe it or not. As far as like me looking through all these little, because they're tiny, as you know, tiny little windows of pictures, and I'm like, okay, do I want to click pop? Do I want to click play on this video? Does it pop? That's the first thing that I look for is color scheme and tone.
So really make sure you understand. I mean, that's such good advice. Like if you're auditioning for the pit, like watch the pit. What colors? I mean, they're wearing scrubs, they're wearing doctors. So know if you have those colors, then use those colors. If it's a gritty show, then wear gritty stuff. That is, I think that's really great advice. Thank you so much. Have you ever had difficulty separating yourself from the character
That's a great question. Separating myself in the moment or like after I'm done with the project?
after you?
It's one of those things, like I said, it's kind of meta. Like when I read this script, I was kind of going through a similar situation as my character. And I just recently saw the ending in in the live moment of my life
Oh,
of the movie. So it's kind of like, can I separate myself from the character? I think that in every character that I've played, I always bring myself to it. There's always an essence there. There's always, you know, my spirit, my soul comes with me everywhere I go in the character. And then separating myself and going, you know, it's more of those like, what would Carrie do? You know, because Carrie in 20 Pounds to Happiness is a very vulnerable, very insecure person, right? Her arc though does build her to become a very like confident person. So I am a confident person. So I had to kind of go backwards.
yeah, that's kind of crazy because I see you as like super confident. And so seeing you as this like when I saw you first as the character that was like insecure, I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, so I had to backtrack, but what does that mean? That means I have to go back to moments of my own vulnerability. I mean, I tell people, I'm like, oh, you're going to come see this movie. I've never looked so bad in my entire life, but I've never looked so good either. So it's one of those things, you know, you really have to just trust the material. And I'm a character actor, so I really get into the character. And so is it hard to separate myself with it? I mean, I feel like Carrie will always live somewhere inside of me because I am Carrie. And a lot of other characters as well that I've played still live with me as well, because I bring my own essence to it, but not in a sense where you read other actors who are like, oh my God, you know, I became this person and I can't get out of it. No, 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 no. I know who I am, and that's a good thing. I'm like, okay, this is me now, and you know, I know what the character is supposed to be like, and then I'll, you know, put those shoes on, put that hat on, and now I'm that character, and then I can always just get out of it if I need to.
And what you've done so much. You've done drama, you've done comedy, you've done you direct, you act. I feel like you do really everything. So what advice would you give to actors and what advice would you give to directors?
Great question. So, advice to actors, train, do every single genre you can imagine so that you know what you're good at, what your strengths are. Always work on your weaknesses. I remember when I was having auditions, because I did a movie called Murder in the Woods,
Right.
and a lot of the roles were for people of color. And as you know, when you watch a horror film, not anymore so much, but when I was making this movie, there wasn't that many lead roles for people of color. And a lot of them didn't understand the tone of what a horror film should be like because they didn't have the skill set, like they didn't practice, they didn't have the know abouts of like, okay, how do I act in a horror film, you know, because some of it was a very telenovela and that's not what I was going for. So I always say, you know what, people need to go and, you know, do short films in different genres so you understand what your wheelhouse is. You know, I came to LA thinking I was going to do comedy, and I got put into the 1 hour wheelhouse of drama. And I'm like, me, really dramatic like that? Like, really? You know, I mean, award winning dramas and all that. But at the same time, those were the roles that were available. But that's not how I saw myself. So for actors, it's sometimes it's hard to be like, well, why do they see me like that? You know, like I always get the tough characters, the cholas, you know, and I'm from the south side of Chicago. So that energy and essence comes with me. I guess that's what people see, but I can also play very vulnerable characters, you know. But I know myself, and a casting director is not going to know me. They're just going to see the picture. They're going to be like, okay, you know, this is how I see you. You remind me of whoever I remind them of, you know. So advice to actors is train. I love theater trained actors. Why? Because even if you make a mistake, you still stay in character. That's been my experience, and they can always just pick it up, and they're just really used to doing things live, which means, you know, that they're gonna give me what they've been rehearsing, and they're gonna give me what I need right then and there. So I would say theater trained, get theater trained. I would say go into different genres to see what your wheelhouse is, or, you know, do short films, get as much experience as you can, especially if you're starting off. A lot of great films have come out of. I went to USC Film School, MFA. So, you know, go to Actors Access and audition for those, because a lot of these thesis films, these are like the future filmmakers that are going to be winning Oscars. So might as well work with them on the ground floor. Network, do not burn bridges. Oh, that's a real important one for actors. You never know who knows somebody. You have no idea how many times I've gotten a call. They're like, hey, do you know so and so? I'm like, mm-hmm. And they're like, oh, can you recommend them? I'm like, for what? They're like, for this project. I'm like, you know, and they always say, like, if you have nothing nice to say, don't say it. So I'm not that person. I'm just like, well, listen, this was my experience, you know, and that's always going to be the case. With this town is so small, the people that are working, it's just a very, very small town. So don't burn bridges. You don't need to do that. You never know when you need a favor. You never know when you have someone in the room. I've championed so many people that I've gotten no's on, but I'm the one that's like, listen, I've worked with them before, just give them a shot, you know. And I've pushed people and I've helped them in their career. If I can, I will, you know, if I've worked with them and I really trust them. So that would be my advice. Double down on yourself, double down on your career. Yes, go ahead and get the headshots. I have friends who, when they were starting off, they're like, what do you think about these headshots? And it was like their daughter took it. There's a tree. They look like they're in Hawaii on vacation. And I'm like, yeah, no, you need to get the professional headshots. If you want to be taken seriously like a professional, you know, it is an investment. It is show business. It is a business, you know,
So
so I would say
out
to
there,
do that.
no professional headshot is. Can you just a little bit on that?
Yeah. Well, like I just said, don't have a tree behind you. Don't have, you know, things sticking out your head like a plant or anything like that. Professional headshots, the lighting is right. The mood is right. You're in character. You have the right clothes. I taught at Cal State LA, and that was one of the things that I taught them was like, we're gonna do mock headshots. Let me see what you think a headshot looks like, and then we would critique them, and then I would say, okay, what character do you think you're going out for here? Because like one of them, she wore like an army jacket, and I was like, oh, is this for like a military thing? They're like, no, I just thought it was cool. I looked hip. I'm like, yeah, you look cool, you look hip, but I would look at this headshot and go, okay, are they auditioning for a military role? You know what I mean? I
Yeah,
mean, honestly, that's what, you know, it's just what you're seeing, you know?
that's great
So,
about had somebody that told me that after my first couple of headshots. That's the thing. I actually had a manager, and at the time I didn't know better, but he was like, okay, we're gonna wear a doctor's outfit. We're gonna wear a construction worker outfit.
wow.
No joke. What else I had? Oh, I had like a bakery apron. But he was my manager, so I was like, I'm gonna do what you say. And then only now do I know, that that was not the move to be doing.
So those are costumes. I think that's great advice for wardrobe when you're getting your headshots. Is like, don't, like sometimes I'll be like, you want to wear glasses? I'm like, this look feels very charactery costumey. For
Mhm.
theater, this would be a great headshot. You know, maybe even for commercials. Know the difference too. I would say good advice is go to IMDb, look up any of the actors that you love or that you feel like, hey, you know what? I kind of would love to work and have that career. And then not to say that, you want to be with like somebody else. I'm just saying so you can go look at their headshots and then go look at their early headshots and then kind of see like, oh wow, look at their current headshot, look at other people's headshots. Like that's a professional headshot. They play all the characters. Like if you want to play a detective, go look at women detectives that are on TV right now and see what their headshots look like. That way you get an idea. I'm talking about people that don't know what a good headshot is. That gives me a lot of insight. Look at who their photographer was. I always ask my friends for referrals. If I love their headshots, I'll say, "Oh my god, I love your headshots. Who shot them?" And it isn't about getting the most expensive headshots. That's the one thing. Like I know a lot of actors are like, "Oh my god, but he's so expensive." Great. If that's what you need, then then work and get it. However, there are so many photographers. My manager just recommended one. I don't have the name right now, but they're not expensive at all, and that's because they used to be an actor. They want to make sure that they keep it affordable for actors. And I looked at their stuff, and I'm going to be shooting with them, and they are very, 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 very affordable. But I really love their stuff. So know who the photographers are. Some of them are very great for commercial headshots. Talk to actors and find out if they've shot with them, what their experience was like as well. Because that's another thing too. It's like you might be in your head imagining one thing, and then you get there and it's something totally different. Or they try to that happened to me on with one somebody who's really really big up there photography wise. There was a certain look that we needed and they didn't want to give it to me and I was like, but that's my money shot, I need it. And they're like, no, 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 because they were trying to make me look all perfect, and I'm like, but that goes contrary to what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get this person that is of low income and is like on the streets. Like I'm not trying to look like I'm on the cover of a magazine. You know what I mean?
I've had that as well, where my manager or my manager this time, she was like, okay, I want a headshot of you like looking like a detective and then like looking like a school teacher. And the photographer was straight up like, I'm not shooting you as a detective. And I was like, okay, well, I already paid the money, so I guess that's not happening today.
Yeah.
It
So
just
discuss it beforehand so you know what your looks are. So that would be my advice for actors. My advice for directors:
yeah.
take an acting class. Yay! Do it so that you understand what's going on the other side of it. I think that's the biggest compliment I've gotten from actors. When I direct them, they're like, "Wow, you're such a actor's director." I'm like, "Yes, because I understand what you're going through. I know every little detail because I've been there and I put myself in that position." I had a wonderful friend of mine who is actually she's in the movie, and I kept saying to her, like, I could tell, I was like, take those heels off. Like, you don't need to wear them. The shot is up here. And I was looking out for her because I know what that's like. If you don't need to wear the heels, like you too, remember? I was telling you, like, bring your slippers. I'm totally fine with that. And that's after going to con, 8 years in a row where they're like, you can't come into this movie unless you have heels on. And you're like, really, in the cobblestone of it all, like I have to wear heels too? Like, no, I don't want to do that. So I don't like to exhaust my actors. I would say to directors, put yourself in that situation. Take an acting class just because you'll understand the whole process, what it goes through, and then just be able to communicate. I've worked with some directors they're the most brilliant technical people, but they were not able to communicate just on a human level with actors. Then I have other directors that have nothing to do with technical. They don't even know. They're like, I trust my DP, whatever they want to do, but they're great at getting the performance out of you. You know what I mean? So I would say just, set the tone. That was really important for me at the beginning, was to set the tone of what we're trying to do here. And remember, yes, it's a team. However, the director in the film is the one that's leading the way. So I always tell people, trust your director, but in order to trust your director, you have to gain that trust. So I would say at the very beginning, just let everybody know, it is a team effort. I'm doing the best that I can. There's no way I'm going to not look out for you, and to just trust your director. Set the trust from the beginning.
Yeah, back to the headshot. We have howtoselftape.com, and one of the tools on how to self tape that I love is a headshot evaluator.
Oh, I love that.
I did my headshots that are looking like a constructor, and what are you doing? What is this? And so that if you don't, if you're unsure about your headshots, please, you can go on. There's a trial, check it out, and then also storyboards. You know, you are big about planning and making things go fast. On Filmmaker Genius, we have a storyboard generator. Feel free to check out both of those things. But in terms of acting, I wanted to ask, how has your approach to acting changed over time? Because you're so experienced too. So,
So I think at the beginning of my career, I just got to the point where I was like, I can play everything. I can play anything. That's every actor. It's like, just
yeah.
give me a shot, any role. It doesn't matter. And then slowly I started to realize I'm like, okay, this is how the industry sees me,
Mhm.
right? This is how I see myself.
Right.
And then how it changed was I really wasn't as critical anymore of myself as I used to be, as far as like, why didn't I get in the room? We always analyze. Like, now I'm able to like let it go, and I'm just saying I trust the universe. If that role's for me, it's for me. If it's not, it's not. And I've seen it where the role goes away, and then for whatever reason it comes back later, and I'm like, wait, what? That was like 3 months ago, and like I didn't even think, really. Or sometimes you feel like your worst audition ever, you're like, that was the worst thing ever, and then I book it, and I'm like, what? you know so I think my acting has changed more so in my own mental ways that I deal with the industry, in the sense that there's not that much pressure on myself, because I know that if it's for me, it's for me, and I always do my best. No matter what, I will always bring my best. With all my auditions, like I really, there's been times I'll send it to my manager, and then they'll give me a note, and I already broke down the whole everything. Like, there's the more lights up, I already changed my outfit because I thought I was like, okay, I'm ready to go. And then he's like, actually, and he'll give me this note, and I'm like, oh, you're right. And so then I have to set it back up, and I'll take the note because I really trust my manager. That's another thing. My acting has changed in the sense that, like, I you let go of that ego. You have to leave it at the door. It doesn't matter. Like I said, with this movie, it's like I look the worst I've ever looked in any movie, in this movie, but I've also looked the best, and I have to let that go and not be like, oh my god, what am I gonna? It doesn't matter. That's the character. So my acting has changed more that I trust myself, and I've surrounded myself with people that I can trust, so that I can get that advice. And it's about the work. So if I need to set it back up and I need to redo it, I'm gonna do it. I don't get frustrated anymore. Like, oh, I thought that was the best thing ever. It was great. Yeah, it's not. You need to redo it. You know what I mean? And then just go that, it's one of those things. It's like, it doesn't matter where you are in your career. You always want more time. You can always do better. And I always say, just give it your best. And as long as that's what you've done, you can't do anything more than that. And if it's yours, it's yours. And if it's not, it's not. And like, get out of your head. And sometimes I'll see who booked it, and I'll go, oh, I know why they booked it. Okay, I see. And I like to do that. I like to analyze and just see, like, got it, noted for next time, and just know that there'll be a next time, and not put it like this is the end all be all of, if I don't get this role. That's happened to me too with acting, where I look at the role and I'm like, oh my God, this was it. And it was like, no, it actually wasn't. Because after I see what happened to that project, I'm like, I'm glad that I didn't do that project. It happens. I've been around long enough to know, just, it's, do what you love. That's
Yeah,
what I would say. Do what you love and love what you do.
I love that. And also on How to Self Tape, we have a video analysis tool. So if you
Ooh.
have reps that don't really want to, if they're super bogged down by having a lot of clients, but I have a lot of friends, they'll be like, which one do you think is better? And they're giving me like 10 tapes. I'm like, I love that's like a lot of time to be looking at all your tapes. So feel free to check that out.
Oh,
Another
I love that. What is that called? The analyzer? What is it called?
So on howtoselftape.com, one of the tools that we have is a video analysis tool. So we'll tell you out of 100 what it would score you based on Meisner, Stanislavski, whatever type of Uta Hagen, whatever acting school you like. You can choose it, and then it will review it. It will tell you what you did good, some different ideas, what you didn't do well. And so I really like that. And my
I
friend,
love that. I love that because it's so funny. I remember one time I was on set with this actor who was all about Meisner, and they thought it was their first television show, and they thought the director was going to come and talk to them, and so they started asking all these questions. The director's just looking at them like, "This is TV, like, this is TV, right?" So yeah, that's great to actually work all that out through the what is it called again?
So it on how
The
to get
analyzer, the analyzer,
right.
right? Is it analyzer?
Yeah, because you don't sometimes for me, another thing that really attracted me to the platform was I'm getting auditions that are due like tomorrow. And I'm messaging all my coaches and my friends, and people are busy. So they can't always get back to you when you want them to get back to you. And so with this, it's like, oh, you upload it, it tells you, it's like, okay, I need to be better at this, or it will tell you the technicality. So it'll be like, hey, we can't hear you.
Mm.
Or like, the lighting's not good enough, so we can't really see you, or it
Oh,
will
wow.
the pacing, your monotone or whatever. Maybe try this, like maybe use some hand motions or whatever. It gives you different things, and also like, oh, we really like your eye line, stuff like that, because eye line for auditions super important.
That's everything. That is everything. And then sometimes, like for me, I travel so much, and so do you. And so when you're out of town, like I remember I had to do, it was a really, really big audition that was due like, I don't know, in 5 hours or something. It was like a I'm sorry, same day. It was the same day. And I was in Cannes, and I was like, okay, everyone's asleep. Everyone I know that can help me out right now is like asleep because we're, 9 hours ahead. And I'm like, what am I supposed to do? So I mean, I would love to have that at that moment because I would have been able to just, upload it and get it done. Because sometimes you are traveling. Sometimes I'm at an airport and they're like, oh, this is due in 2 hours. I'm like, what? Before yeah, I just got it. I'm like, before I get on the plane, I have to like shoot this. So that sounds awesome. To be able to just upload it and get it done because otherwise, yeah, good luck finding, someone that's awake at 4 in the morning while I'm trying to self tape,
That's the thing. Like I booked a job in Australia, and luckily it was great, but like I was in Australia and I was like, okay, well, no one's awake right now.
Right.
But luckily it was a great audition, and so I booked it. But it happens a lot where you're on a time zone where nobody is available. So
Right.
like that a lot. And
Well, that's great. No, I think actors should definitely try, especially if there's a free trial, because I mean, nobody, had looked 5 years ago, nobody would have, if somebody would have said to me like, hey, you're gonna need a PhD to be able to freaking light, direct, like everything that I do, thank God I went to film school to learn all this. But just the self-tape alone, my God, you do need a freaking PhD to figure all this stuff out. Not just the eyeline, but just everything about it, So I mean, this is a great tool to have, absolutely.
thank you. Yeah, it's been so helpful. So we've talked about how your approach to acting has changed over time, and I love just let it go. If it's right for you, then it's right for you. But with directing, you did Murder in the Woods, and which is so different than 20 Pounds to Happiness. How has your approach to directing changed?
Well, in Murder Woods, I was a writer and producer on that, and I knew like when I wrote it, I already visualized the whole thing in my head as to like who I wanted to be in it. I had worked in a movie called The Better Life, which was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Actor, the Man Beach Cheer in 2011. And so I met a lot of very young actors who are now very established with credits. But at that time, I was like, oh, I would love to write something for them to star in. And again, going back to like people, these characters, they're lead characters, they're non-stereotypical. It's a horror film, and a lot of them didn't have that experience. So I really had to work through the tone with them because it was a very grounded film. There were some parts that were campy. I mean, it's a slasher. You know what I mean? It wasn't Shakespeare, but it's a slasher. So it was one of those things where it's like we really in the audition process we had a lot of callbacks. There was a lot of chemistry tests, and that was the thing that we were so torn with because people became unavailable. That was the thing. I had written this role for a great actor who he's amazing, but he got really busy, and so I was like, oh my god. And then this other role, we had to like recast like three roles that were already set like before production. So I was like, oh my god. So my approach has always been like, look at this cast like they're in the same world because I had a cast A, a cast B, and a cast C. Okay, and I don't know if the actors understand what happens in that process, but you go from like let's say 2,000 actors to 200 to like 20, and in our world, it's like, okay, if I do the Disney version, then this is my cast right here. And it's all of them together in this cast. But I really love this other person, but that person doesn't fit in cast B world, which is the more grounded, somewhat campy, but not really campy. Then I had a C cast where it's like they all live in the campy world, and it was like a very teenage driven film. So my approach has been really to look at when I'm directing, like look at the world that I'm creating and just make sure that everybody does fit there. But I have to know for a fact what is the world that I'm creating, right? Do I want it to be campy? Do I want the Disney version, or do I want this more grounded, gore horror thing going on? So there was a lot of comedy in it too, because it's a slasher. So I took the liberty of that because I don't like watching gore. I watch it like this. I'm like, ah, so I need that release. I need that those laughs. Everyone can watch the movie. I think it's free by now on Tubi. It's called Murder in the Woods. Check it out. But yeah, my approach to that, and that's something that I use too. I like when I'm teaching classes for acting, I like to use that material as audition material for actors, but make sure that they've never seen it. And then after the fact, they get to see it and they're like, oh wow. Because I think that's really helpful. You know what I mean? Because when you're going in as an actor, you don't know what they want. Sometimes you do, but really, rarely you don't know because sometimes the people in the room don't know what they want, or they do know what they want, but somebody else wants something else. I had to go through that where it's like, one of the producers wanted it to be campy. Somebody else, like the investor, was like, no, but I want it to be. Everyone has their opinion, and at the end of the day, it has to be like, it is a vote. You have to get, the approval from a lot of people. So as far as like the directing approach goes, now I just go, okay, this is why it's important to have my visual boards to understand like the cast and know that if I lose an actor, because they're busy. Like for this movie, my first choice wasn't available for 20 Pounds to Happiness, and I was so bummed out because it was like, oh my god, we're gonna give it. It was Scott Mendes, but he booked Dexter Original Sins, and he was a busy actor, and it happens all the time. So we had to go back into rewrites. Josefina's like, okay, well let's figure this out, and things happen. So as a director, I've just learned to literally go, whatever happens, I'm going to problem solve it as the best way that I can. Even on this film, we had an actor that had COVID, so that had to be a whole rewrite because they were not available for the 3 days because they were out sick, and that was a main plot point in the film. So we had to rewrite that, change that, and give the lines to actors. So I would say, actors, be ready. Be 3,000% committed and be ready for any change. I remember being on the set of Will and Grace as an actor. I was guest starring, and they worked. I mean, I thought I was fast. No, they work. That's why they're Emmy winners, because they are at such a high level. And I just was like, wow, this is great, like masterclass here for comedic geniuses, Megan Mullally. But the showrunner came in and gave this note, and I just remember how fast they gave the note. It was something. It was something to the effect of like, okay, remember that first? Oh, no, they came in. They were like, okay, that third line, make it your first line, and then instead of waving with your right hand, do it with your left hand. Turn around, and then just walk out. And ready, everybody, and action. And you're in front of 300 people that are live, and the note was like processed in 2 seconds. Luckily, that note wasn't for me. It was for the genius Megan Mullally, who just nailed it. And I'm watching it all. I'm acting opposite her, just going like, and I'm like, please don't give me any notes. I mean, I was ready for it, but I was like, that was the fastest turnaround time of a note I've ever gotten. So yeah, as a director right now, I'm just like, be ready for anything, be ready for any change. And don't get upset about it. Like I've seen people blow up for no reason, and it's like, hey, we gotta get this done. It's gonna get done. As things change. It's malleable. The script, the cast, the wardrobe, the everything is like, just trust. Just trust. Everybody is here for the same reason. Everybody wants to make the best film possible. Just let it go and leave those emotions out the door if it doesn't fit the story, if it's not for the highest good of the character or the story. Don't be in a bad mood. Leave that at the door. We don't need that. Unless your character, like, transmute that energy and use it in your character, if that's what it calls for, sure. But other than that, we don't need to know about, whatever the issues. I've worked with kids, I've worked with, like, I've taught at many, many different levels of beginning actors, seasoned actors, and I've worked with amazing actors. So I've seen it all, you know what I mean? And it's like, does it have to go there sometimes? No, it doesn't. It really doesn't.
Yeah, I always try to keep a just positive attitude because the thing is, like, filmmaking is so stressful, and I know that it's a miracle that any movie is made. Like, distributing is so difficult, making the movie is so difficult, getting the cast, as you just discussed, so difficult. So what can I do? I can be positive and easy to work with. So
And
like,
thank you for that. Thank you for showing up. It's so easy. Just show up on time. Know your lines. Be positive. It's so funny because I remember I was teaching a class. It was a youth workshop, and I gave this award out. But I was like, we created it. I was like, for the most positive attitude, because that one person made that set just so amazing. This little girl Hazel, she just always had a smile on her face, and it wasn't fake. I'm not saying fake it. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that if something's going on, if you need a timeout, that's fine. That's why there's, trailers, or that's why there, you're there like, ah, come on, we're there 10 hours. I remember like what I'm trying to say is like, don't complain. What is the point of complaining? It's not going to get anything done faster. It's not going to remember why you're doing this because we love it. We're all doing it because we love it, right? Someone said, you're not a doctor saving lives. And I'm like, no, but actually we are, because the world revolves around entertainment, right? This is our escape. We want to entertain people. People want to laugh. People heal when they can feel these emotions that they themselves cannot get out, or if it's in their head, but they don't know how to process. They don't know how to communicate it. So sometimes we watch movies and we release all that. So we are changing the world. We are helping. We are doing really good work, and it's very much needed. So just remember that. I think for actors, come with a positive attitude no matter what happens. You know what? Remember you're here and you're so blessed because there was a million other actors that could have been here and you're the one that got chosen. So just remember that, and stay in that love frequency is what I'm trying to say.
I was fortunate enough to be on set with Quentin Tarantino, and we were behind time. The sun was setting. You know, you want that golden hour. You have to have your light. And he said to everybody, he was like, "Why are we here?" One says, "Because we love making movies." And I just like that was such a it was very early on in my experience, and it's always stuck with me. Like, you're here because we love making movies. So do your job, be positive, and be prepared. Um, what do you hope audiences will take from your work?
Healing, enjoyment, joy, happiness.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, the reviews for this movie, right after people come up to me, I'm talking about 20 Pounds of Happiness, and they're like, this movie changed my life. I am Carrie. Thank you for that. Thank you for reminding me to love myself. So I'm a filmmaker. When I look at projects, I really go, how is this going to make people feel at the end? How is the audience going to feel? Is this an uplifting film? Because even Murder in the Woods, even though it was a slasher, if you watch it, you'll understand why I ended it the way I did, and it's in a positive note actually. So I try to keep everything very positive, but I really hope that audiences could just take away and go, wow, you know what? Thank you for helping me process that. And I feel lighter, I feel happier, and I want to share this movie with somebody else that I think could use this kind of healing. And I'm talking about 20 Pounds to Happiness right now, but really all my other work, because I have other projects coming up as well. And that's really what my takeaway is when I'm doing something. I work so hard. Like you said, people don't know what we're going through. Actors, you don't know how hard it is to get not just the LA film permit, but like parking permits and all this other jazz that's happening behind the scenes. So I'm sorry if I can't like stop and chat for an hour with you about Stanislavski. Like, we could do that, if you want to do that before we shoot, but I can't do that on the set. Sometimes people don't understand all the things that go on behind the scenes. Which is it's so funny because once you're producing, and especially in indie filmmaking, now that people are going to verticals, like it's just very fast paced. There's just a lot going on, and unless it's a one person show, there's 20 other actors you have to deal with, and production crew, whether it's 20 people or 100 people. Like, just know that, get just come in with a positive attitude. But yeah, the takeaway is I hope that it can give you some healing and some happiness and some joy.
I love that. And where can we see 20 Pounds of Happiness, or can you tell us about where it's coming out, or if there's any theaters, or if just anything you want to say? about?
Sure. So 20 Pounds of Happiness has been on the festival route. We actually screened at Camera Shea last year, which was amazing. From there, we opened here at Los Angeles Film, the La Leaf, Los Angeles Latino International Film Festival, which is awesome. We did New York Latino Film Festival. The audiences have really been receiving this really just, I don't know, it's been a joyride, honestly. It's been so awesome. We went to Miami for the Urban Film Festival. I won Best Actress at the Georgia International Latino Film Festival in Atlanta. We won the best feature at the South Texas International Latino Film Festival. That was great. We swept in New York as well. We went to New York twice. We went to Philly twice because people wanted it. And I was like, okay, let's go. So we've been doing the festival route. I keep saying we're going to wrap up the festival route because we really want to release it. But because what's going on in the industry right now, there's been a lot of delays and a lot of people are really taking their time with distribution now, more so than ever. You know, it feels almost like COVID days again right now. It's like everyone wants to really, you know, push anything through. I'll just leave it at that. So we just had a screening. Oh, we did Philadelphia, the Women's Film Festival, which was amazing. And then we also did the Philly Latino Film Festival. That was great too. They were all awesome. And last weekend we did San Diego Latino Film Festival, and that was so much fun. But this month, April 25th, that's right, Saturday, April 25th at 3 p.m., we're going to be at Milagros Cinemas, which is in Norwalk. So anyone that's in the LA area, please, please get your tickets. We only have a couple left. We're going to have a Q&A afterwards. Come and meet me, meet the cast, ask questions. That's the one thing is I do love sharing this stuff. There's a lot of stuff that actors don't know that I really like to talk about. Because I feel like if I can help anybody in any way, and again, it's my journey, and there's always different situations. Every set you get on, it's a different set of people, you know, and different situations. But I just feel like, you know, hearing it from people that actually are on the ground. That's one thing when I went to film school, I was like, okay, when's the last time you made a movie? You know, I'm actually on the ground, like making it, doing it as we speak, real time, live. So anything you ask me, it's like, okay, you know, I can pretty much, yeah, you know, give you information as it stands now. You know, I can also tell you about U.S. versus Paramount 1965 and the history of it, but that's a different conversation. When they dismantled the studio system, which it seems like we're back to now. That's what it seems like.
It does seem like that. And where can we get tickets?
You can go, well, if you follow me on Instagram or follow 20 Pounds of Happiness, it is in the bio link, but it's the actual website is at the Mexican American Film and Television Festival.org. I'll put the link though, so people can have that because it would be fun for people to come out and see it on the big screen, the way it's supposed to be seen, and with the cast there, which is always fun because we get to take pictures afterwards and you know do our videos and stuff like that and Q&A, and then party with us because we're gonna have a little party afterwards, a little VIP party.
Follow Yelyna De Leon and go to the Mexican American. What was that?
Television and film festival. I'll put the link in there. But it's in my bio link as well. And if you follow 20 Pounds to Happiness at 20 Pounds to Happiness, it's in that bio link as well.
Follow 20 Pounds of Happiness and follow Yelyna De Leon. And we only have a few minutes left because Instagram Live only allows us to do an hour. But what is a risk as an actor that has paid off? And then same thing, what is a risk as a director that is paid off?
Ooh, a risk.
Yeah.
Oh, isn't the whole career a risk? Isn't the whole choice to do it a risk? You know, I have siblings who, you know, one is a musician, but he's also a doctor because he had to be. Um, And then she wanted to be an actress, my sibling, but she became an attorney, you know. So the risk is really doubling down on yourself, investing in yourself, and really believing in your dream. Because I have so many friends that are so talented, but they gave up on their dream, you know, that inner child that's like, you know, I was on a stage when I was 3 years old. I was a dancer. I was doing, you know, lots of dancing, cultural dances in school. We're talking about in school. Then my mom enrolled me in ballet, believe it or not, and I did gymnastics. So I've been on the stage. I did theater in high school. I did musical theater. I went to school for it, theater, film, television. I guess that's the investment is the biggest risk is getting education like my master's degree in what I'm doing, and it's paid off both as an actor and as a director because I doubled down on myself and I really invested and did the work. I'm not saying you have to go to film school, you have to go to school. No, train, you know. I don't care if it's at your local church and you're doing shows every week. You know, when we're at USC, we were shooting every weekend for 3 years. Whether I was directing or producing or doing sound design, or I mean, it was a whole holistic approach, or doing lighting, or I was a grip. We had to crew up for other people, you know. So that was the biggest risk, I think, was just investing in my education, which goes hand in hand with my career, which is why I can do what I can do now. So that was the biggest thing. As a director, same thing. I think that was the biggest risk. Was to be able to just say, you know what, I'm going to go for it because I'm a woman and there's not a lot of women directors. And I have seen the difference. I've been on so many sets with male directors versus women directors and how they get treated. It's very different. You know, I'm hoping that that's going to change now, slowly but surely. But I think that's been the biggest risk is to be like, you know what, when everyone's telling you no, like I remember when I was applying for UCLA, I was told, you're never going to get in. There's no way because I went there for undergrad. They were like, it's just not going to happen. I was like, what? I still applied and I got in. Then I remember applying to USC grad school, which only admits about 50 people cohort all around the world. And they're like, yeah, you're never going to get in. And I got in, you know? So I think it's doubling down on myself. That's the biggest risk I've ever taken, following my dreams, doing what I love, not giving up, fighting with everything I got. And I mean, fighting because life happens, right? When life is lifing, you got to figure it out and still hold on to your dream and make it happen.
Oh, that's really inspiring. Thank you. Do you have any specific rituals or superstitions that you do on set as a director?
Ooh, on set. That's a great question. Well, I always like to start it with positive energy.
Mm.
You know, I'm a Reiki master as well. I love sound healing. I love all that stuff. So I know in Honduras, one thing that, because I was doing a film there, I was directing a film there and leading a class workshop there. I play this one song that it just sets the whole mood. It is like, just breathe, just believe. I think, you know, do you know that song? If not, I'll send it to you. But it's amazing. That song just sets the tone and the mood. So from then on, I said, you know what, I'm going to play this on every set at the beginning of it because it really honestly just reminds me to just breathe and just believe. The lyrics say everything, you know, and it's such a high frequency song and it just puts me in a great mood. But I also like to just, you know, gather around with everybody and just thank everybody and tell them how grateful I am for them to be there because a lot of things had to happen for all of us to be there and that one moment's never going to happen ever again. So let's make the most of it. So I really like to lead with that.
Oh, I really like that. I feel like we did a table read, which I felt very fortunate because often the projects I've been on, there's no table read and you're just going straight to the front lines. And it was just
Right.
to see everyone and have that uplifting experience. And there was food and laughter, and also on set when you're this movie's so when you're looking horrible, that's one of the fun moments, like in the entire movie for me, anyways. But read, you could see what all the funny moments were because everybody was laughing. Because on set, you can't laugh. You're gonna ruin the take. So like
Right.
it was get out all the laughs during that table read, and I just thought that was really a special experience to be able to do that.
Oh yeah, thank you. And we had the gong too. Remember, we were hitting the gong. So that's the other thing. I was like, let's set the frequency. But no, you're right. That was it was the second I read it with the cast at that table read, I was like, oh my God, this is going to be so funny. How am I not going to break character myself? Because I was just like, everybody was just the character. And I was like, this is hilarious, you know? And I've watched this movie many times at, you know, with audiences and they love it. It's like roaring laughter. I always tell people, laugh as loud as you want, get it out. If you want to cry, a lot of people actually do cry. There's one scene in particular with Soledad, the mother, that I mean, I've seen the movie so many times. I still cry to this day, you know, and it's like, wow. So it's one of those things like watching myself up on that screen. It's like it's not me anymore. I have to really let go. That's another thing advice for the actors when you were saying like how do you, does it stay with you? When I'm watching the movie, I'm not watching myself. I'm watching the character. And once you can get to that point, then it's like you've done your job. You know what I mean? Instead of sitting there going like, "Oh, look at my, ooh, my hair is out of." You're not in the story. Like that's not you. It doesn't matter how you look at that moment. It's the character.
Yeah.
You know.
I loved when you said that. It's like, let it go. One of my favorite acting teachers, she said something like, what's meant for you will never pass you by. And so
100%.
I
Absolutely.
yeah, I've always thought about that. Because sometimes you're like, no, but I'm so perfect for this. And
And you know what? You probably are. However, the other four series regulars don't live in the world that you would live in. They'd have to cast the other. That's the one thing that I finally realized. I was like, oh, so talent sometimes like I've been told talent has 10% to do with it. I'm like, yeah, everything else 90% is hustle and everything else. And who you know, no, who knows you and what do they know you for? What are you known for?
yeah,
Right? That's why I said don't burn bridges. You don't need to do that. But yeah, it's one of those things. It's like you were perfect for it, but that's if we would have gone with the Disney version of it, but we're not. We're going with the, slasher version of it. So just know that sometimes, you are perfect for it. It's just the other people are not. So they have to make sure that everybody in that cast lives in that world. And I feel like our casting director did a great job with 20 Pounds of Happiness in the sense that they all live in that same world. You
yeah,
know, for Murder in the Woods, I actually was a casting director. Again, a lot of the roles were written for the people that ended up playing it, but then we had to, recast a couple people because they were not available. And so I became a casting director, and that is where I really learned like the other side of it and go, oh wow, why the headshot's so important, why the self tape is so important, why even having a good reader, sometimes that takes you out of it. Anything that takes you out of it is not good. You want to just captivate people and have them in school. They would call it the lean in moment. Are you the actor that makes people lean in? Do they want to? Are they watching you like this? Like, tell me more. Let me see. Leave people wanting more. Are you that type of person? As an actor, I'm saying like that you're interested in watching them for an hour and a half. If it's a feature, sometimes 2 hours or 30 minutes or 20 minutes if it's, a TV show.
yeah. I think the lean in sort of thing. And I always love because I went to musical theater school when I was younger, and when I was in musical theater school, I'd be like, well, this is the way I prepared it, and the way I'm doing it. And now, like, some of my favorite moments are like even the laugh for the audition. I did not intentionally laugh like that. It happened, and my wife was my reader at the time. And she was like, babe, no, that was awful. I was like, don't you think it's a little over the top? She's like, no, that was great. And, you loved it.
That's why you got cast. Honestly, I was like, no one could do that. And that was like the best thing ever. So I think that's also great advice is be in the moment, but be ready for anything. I know Carlo Mendez has a story. He loves to share it. He's like, in the audition, I gave him a line reading, meaning like I was acting with him and opposite him, and he didn't expect it to come out that way. He thought I was going to be upset with him because the talking to him, I'm like, oh really? You put a video of me on the on online, and he's like, yeah, and I'm like, oh that's so sweet. Like I'm all happy about it. That was my attitude, and he thought I was going to be like, why did you do that? I can't believe it. So he was like, wait, what? So he had to react to the way that I gave him the line, not the way he had it in his head. This happens to us all the time is that we get stuck saying the line a certain way, like your laugh. And you're like, okay, so I'm going to do this. I'm going to do it. But then you get there. And if you're in the moment and you're reading the room, you're feeling it. It's a whole different energy that happens. That's where the magic happens. It's like when you're in that moment. So yeah, I would say that's another piece of advice is like, be in the moment and just what's gonna happen is gonna happen. Let's play. That's the thing. Play.
Yeah.
Have fun. Play with the lines though. Sometimes people don't like when you improvise. You should ask if it's okay to improvise if you feel like improvising. But I don't ask. I just try to stay on script.
Well, thank you so much for coming on today. I think we only have like 4 minutes left. Is there any
4 minutes.
about 20 Pounds of Happiness, about your screening in Norwalk, anything?
I just want to invite people to come on out and check it out and to share this video. I mean, it's really important as an independent filmmaker to have a good support network of people to have you share this video is going to help a lot of people in the sense that you never know when I'm casting. I'm going to be announcing it because I do have other projects coming up that I'm going to be directing. I have two verticals that I'm going to be directing, and I'm going to be looking for actors. So if I don't know where you're at, how am I going to know about you? So this way, if you know about me, then I know about you. And it's one of those things. It's like we just have to keep the network going and open it up. So I would just say, share this video when our movie comes out. Please support it. We're hoping it'll be sometime this year. Negotiating a couple things here and there. Again, the industry was at a standstill for a second, and plus with all this like strike talk, which we're hoping to avoid. So it's one of those things that we just have to keep it going and keep the faith, and then just keep working and just double down on ourselves and do the work ourselves, because I'm not going to sit here and wait to be cast in something. I mean, that's why we create the work. you know you have to just, if you're about it, be about it. That's what we would say in Chicago. Be about it.
Be about it. Well, and as we've said, if you haven't signed up for howtoselftape.com, check it out. We have teleprompters, a headshot evaluator, and the video analysis tool on Filmmaker Genius. We have a script analysis, a pitch deck generator, and a storyboard generator. Try it out. We have a free trial. Worth it.
Ooh,
Going to help. This industry, as we've discussed, moves fast, and it's going to help you move faster. Thank you so much, Yelena, and I
thank you.
see you soon.
That was great. Thank you. Bye.